drop. If you're looking for a silver lining, there's no silver linings here, but some folks are seeing in that idea that perfectly good companies getting hurt on the stock market as a sign perhaps a bottom is at hand.
Any of those companies you have your eye on?
Watching a lot of the companies. We're also watching those layoffs that you mentioned, Darren. I have this rather macabre tally posted by my computer workstation at the office. 57 companies by last night had warned that their profits would be hurt directly as a result of the terrible events of 11 September. And we're going to be monitoring that very closely, because even just the announcement of layoffs, even if you don't get the pink slip yourself, that forces you to think twice about buying, and that hurts the economy. Many economists are saying now that we're probably already in a recession.
Well, and if you're trying to look at some companies that might benefit from this, in a way, you know, just like that list you have by your computer, it's kind of morbid, but defense companies would benefit by a military buildup, would they not?
You're making a very important and sage point. You see a shifting, a redistribution in this economy because of this terrible moment. And you do see money moving into, for instance, defense companies. You will also see telecommunications companies ultimately benefiting from the fact that some folks are reluctant to fly. Perhaps instead they'll sign up for a teleconference. That will help other companies. You also see, when you hear about problems in the insurance industry, obvious ones. They've been forced to raise their rates on the airlines. But a lot of the companies that insure the insurance companies, these are called reinsurance companies, are outside our country. That means a net inflow of capital to the United States. And oddly, that's a beneficial effect.
All right, let's get back to your original point of what investors should do. Is there any way in this current economy where everything seems to be slipping away, is there any way for the individual investor to get ahead?
To get ahead is rather tough. To avoid losing, perhaps not so tough.
Tread water. How about tread water?
You can tread water for a while, perhaps. I don't think there's any financial book ever written that taught us how to deal with the scale of the disaster that we saw. I was trying to compare what we saw for the Dow Jones Industrial Average this week. You have to go back. You mentioned the Great Depression was the last week that was worse than this, but there was an equivalent week in May of 1940. And what was going on then? That's when Germany had invaded Holland. Paris had already been taken, and it's sort of that scale of disaster that investors are dealing with. And what folks have to do is not trade and alter their portfolio when they're feeling emotional. That's a ticket to disaster. A lot of us, me included, feeling rather emotional right now. Time probably to sit tight until things calm down.
Good advice indeed. David Brancaccio, you hear him on NPR Marketplace. David, good to see you again.
Thank you.
And Wolf, back to you.
Thank you, Darren. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this hour. A lot more coverage. We're also standing by for a news conference from the New York Mayor, Rudy Giuliani. Stay with us.
Hold steady. Keep your eye on the target. At Oppenheimer Funds, we zero in on key growth trends. It's how our capital appreciation fund beat the S&P 500 index over the past 10 years. Oppenheimer Funds, the right way to invest.
What kind of rooms you got?
King size.
You got room service?
Donuts and coffee.
Got entertainment?
All rooms have every movie ever made in every language, anytime, day or night.
How is that possible?
This is the technology that makes it happen. This is Riding the Light. Quest.
What makes a great performance? Years of hard work, attention to detail, a formula that's helped Oppenheimer Global Fund beat 98% of its competition over the past 5 years. Oppenheimer Funds, the right way to invest.
Buying or selling a home? RE/MAX agents lighten that load, averaging more than 13 years experience.
As you see, New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani getting ready to hold a press conference. These are daily events in which he updates those people of New York and also the rest of us as to the search and rescue operation.
Good afternoon. I spent some time a little while ago at the site of the recovery effort, and the people there are making a tremendous amount of progress in clearing it away. And I watched a group of firefighters take out one of their brothers, and it was a very beautiful scene to see how they treated him and how they all stood at attention when he was brought in and then when the priest blessed him. And it gives you a sense of the dignity and the honor that's being paid to those that have been lost. Now, they are doing everything they can to try to recover as many people as possible. And they'll continue to do that, and the effort is really very, very sad and very tragic, and also very magnificent in the way in which the people who are doing this are carrying it out. They have cleared away a great deal of the site. They're now about the number is 90,937 tons have been now removed. 6,255 loads or trucks have been taken out. There have been a number of situations in which they've been in great danger in doing this recovery effort, and we should pause and think for a moment about the risk that these people have taken and really congratulate them and thank them. 4,316 families have now registered at the center. The police commissioner will give you the numbers. The number of missing persons number has remained the same, I believe. I remember at 6,333. Some of the numbers have changed with regard to bodies that have been recovered, although they've increased. They haven't increased significantly, but there's been some increase. We check every day on air quality. Air quality is normal. We check every day, several times a day, on water quality. Water quality is normal. People have called and asked questions about that, and that is all normal. And people reoccupied more of Battery Park City today, and we should have more of it occupied on Monday, and that seems to be going pretty well. It seems to be going as well as I guess we could expect. People who are reoccupying buildings who have questions about health cleanup or problems like that, there's a Department of Health number to call, 213-1844. That's 213-1844. We'll give you that number and you can post it. Those are for people going back into buildings and they have questions about cleanup, they have questions about the quality of the air, they have questions about their health. 213-1844. Monday is going to be a regular day in New York City. We expect that traffic is going to be even heavier than it has been over the course of the last week. The last week had both the reaction to the attack and the cleanup and 2 days of Jewish holidays, and so we get back to a very, very normal day. We want it to be a normal day, and we want everyone to come into the city. And everybody in their own way has to find a way to get back to normal. Normal means not being sad and not mourning. Everybody's going to mourn and feel terrible and feel awful, and then there are going to be times in which people just cry. But they have to be able to, as best they can, get back to work, get back into normal life, get back into enjoying their lives, and also stop being afraid. Stop being afraid doesn't mean you can get rid of the emotion. It means overcoming it. Just going out and doing the things that you normally do. And if you want to know what you can do to help, probably the vast majority of people that want to help cannot come and take away debris. We have the number of people we need for that, and they have the skills to do that. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that would like to enlist for the military, but they're probably too young, too old, or too whatever, and the military is well trained. But here's what you can do if you feel very emotional and very strongly about this. You can go back to your normal way of life. And I think you'd honor the people who are missing and the people who died if you did that. After all, they died to protect our normal way of life. So you should go back and enjoy it. And in that connection, the Met game last night, I think, was very effective in convincing a lot of people to go back to their normal way of life, because even though they were very solemn and very joyous, and the Mets and the Atlanta Braves all hugged each other, and I even got cheered at Shea Stadium, something that made me very nervous. I thought we had gotten really weird when that happened. And then all of a sudden, Chipper Jones came to the plate, and the Met fans booed. So we were back to normal, and I hope he understands. He didn't deserve it. He's a really fine man, and I got a chance to shake his hand. But it does show we're going back to normalcy when Met fans begin booing again. And we've got to get back to normal, and I hope we're going to get there. Today there was a warm-up race, I guess you call it, for the New York City Marathon. And 2,500 people showed up to do that, and the New York City Marathon is going to take place on November 4th. All these things are going to go forward. And in honor and in memory of the people that we're burying, and the people that we're finding, and the people that are missing, we have to go back to that. So I'll ask the police commissioner to give you the numbers, and then we'll answer any questions. And then toward the end, when he's finished, President Clinton is here. He joined us for the last part of our meeting, and he'll probably want to say a few words to you.
The total dead as of today at 1400 hours is 261, 194 identified, 67 unidentified. As the mayor mentioned, their missing reports is still at 6,333.
Rich? Randy? Joe? Commissioner? Service. Rudy, you want to join me for that? We'll do that. The prayer service tomorrow. Doors will open at Yankee Stadium at 11 a.m. and at 1 p.m. at the Coney Island and Staten Island stadiums. Seats will not be held after 2 p.m. So you can start getting there at 11, but you have to be there by 2. And a pre-program will begin at 2:30, and the official program will begin at 3 p.m. No bags, backpacks, umbrellas, or bottles will be permitted. There are tickets available for the general public. They're free of charge, and they're available on a first-come, first-served basis. And if you want further information about getting a ticket, you can call 646-710-6245. That's 646-710-6245. The people that are participating in the prayer service, in addition to religious leaders of the Jewish, Catholic, Protestant, and Muslim faiths, including Cardinal O'Connor and Cardinal Egan, I'm sorry, Cardinal Egan, and there will also be several entertainers who will be singing, and the master and mistress of ceremonies will be James Earl Jones and Oprah Winfrey. Placido Domingo will perform, the Harlem Boys and Girls Choir, Lee Greenwood, Bette Midler, and the Yama Artists Chorus and Orchestra. And we know that it will be a very, very uplifting prayer service. The prayers are for the people missing, the people who have died, and for America and for everyone that survived. Rudy, do you have any more details on it?
I believe you covered it all, Mayor.
Mr. President? Thank you very, very much. I want to thank the President for joining us. He has been here a number of times quietly and spent a great deal of time at the Family Center comforting people. Has just spent a great deal of time talking to all these people that are working 12, 15 hours. And it's a source of great strength to know that there are people that are supporting them. And President Clinton, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let me say, I talked to the mayor this morning. He was kind enough to invite me down today, and I got to sit in on a little of his daily briefing. I just want to say, first of all, how grateful I am to all the people who have been working around the clock for more than a week now. I have been at the Family Center 3 times, counting both sites, and a lot of the hard work for the people that are working with those families has just begun, as I'm sure you can all imagine. So these people who have come here, who work for the city, who work for the federal government, many of them who've come from all across America, too, to work with them. They need our support now because a lot of their hard work in dealing with the difficulties and the pain of the families is just now setting in on them. I also want to say, as someone who had responsibility for handling any number of natural and unnatural tragedies, this one, which was beyond any imagination, has been, in my opinion, brilliantly handled here by the mayor and his team and all the state and federal people who have supported them, and I'm very grateful for that. And I just try to do what the mayor asked. You know, yesterday he asked us to go shopping, so I went shopping and bought some things and gave it to the folks that are delivering it to the children of the victims. And so tomorrow we're going to Yankee Stadium because that's what we're doing. And I think that's important. One other thing I would like to say, I've had the opportunity to do a couple of interviews for travel shows, encouraging people to come to New York. And next week I think I'll be on at least 4 commercial airline flights. I think that's right. Anyway, it's a large number. I feel quite confident that the airlines are safe for travel again and that New York is safe for visitors. And anything that all of you in the media can do to get that message out across America, I think, is important because we don't want the economic problems to get any worse, and we need to keep the confidence of the people up. The ultimate victory here is the maintenance of America's confidence in itself, its values, and its future. And I certainly think, Mr. Mayor, you have been critical not only for the people of this city, but all over America. My friends call me from every region of the country and say how well you've done and how well the people of New York have done and how proud they are. So I'm glad to be here, and I hope I can be of help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll take 1 or 2 questions, and then I'm going to walk with the President through the command center, and everybody else will answer the questions.
Mr. Mayor, yesterday you said that you said you didn't want to talk politics, but there's a report today in the Post that your deputy mayor has been lobbying city council members to try to get rid of term limits law, meaning that you would, of course, be mayor for another term. Do you have any comment on that, sir?
I'm still not talking about politics.
This is still a recovery mission.
Yes, let me see if I can explain that better. The mission is going to remain the same for some time. In other words, the firefighters and construction workers and police officers that are there are removing debris carefully in order to find human beings or human remains. What happens is, over a period of time, the chance of finding any live human beings diminishes greatly. It's already very, very small. So it isn't as if the mission changes. I mean, maybe sometime in a long time from now it changes, but for the foreseeable future, the way in which we go about what we're doing will remain exactly the same. Experts, however, will be able to tell you at some point that this is beyond the time that anyone has ever survived. So I think that's the best way to explain it, because that's the truth, that's the reality of it. I was there yesterday and today, and I went today to observe what they were doing because I thought we were getting close to the point where we had to describe this. And I saw the way they're doing this operation. And on the slim chance that there is anyone still alive, they're conducting the operation so they would be able to save someone if that were the case. Because you do the same things in order to recover the remains of human beings.
Do you have any idea how many people have been able to return to their homes downtown and how many people are still displaced?
I think about 5,000 or 6,000 have returned, and I think about 4,000 are still displaced, but I'll check that for you. I think that's right.
What's the value of the service tomorrow?
What's the value of prayer? I don't know that I'm competent or capable of describing the value of prayer. I think the value of the service tomorrow is that people can come together, particularly the families who are hurting and are in great pain, and they can pray, and they can know that they're embraced by thousands of other people, and literally hopefully get the feeling that they're embraced by millions of other people. People that are well known, people that are not well known, people that are hurting with them, and also understand that in this tragedy, the one thing that is surely certain is that no one is alone. It affected thousands of people. I know some of the people well. They were very close friends of mine who died. I know some of the people very, very well who are still missing. I know some of the people very well who are still waiting for the answer, and I think we all share that. So those people who are feeling the terrible tragedy of having lost someone can know that there are literally thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who are going through exactly the same thing they're going through. And they can pray to God for help.
Can you describe for us?
Sure. Sure.
Can you tell us what's touched you the most about the people that you've been seeing and spending time with?
Well, among the victims, the thing that's moved me most is seeing all those people holding their flyers with the pictures in their hands. This is my wife, this is my husband, this is my wife and daughter. Here's how old they are, here's how tall they are, here's how much they weigh, here's what floor they were on. I think, you know, we drove by the center to come up here today, and all those, you know, that wall is there with all of them up. I still can bear to look at it. Among the workers, the thing that has touched me the most is the ability of all these firemen and policemen and FEMA workers and others to absorb all this pain and find strength in it. You know, I think what the mayor said about the prayer service, let me just reinforce that. I think that the people who will be there believe they're not alone, both on earth and otherwise. And I think the fact that he has arranged to have a substantial number of clergy there who are Christian, Jewish, and Muslim will emphasize, again, the stark difference in what America and New York represent and what this terrorist act and the people behind it represent. And you can see that in everything that every one of these people does. And to those of us who are kind of rooting on the sidelines, it is overwhelming. Thank you.
Rudy, do you want to stay and answer a few more questions about the services?
Stand by.
You've been listening to a news conference held by New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani. These are news conferences that he holds on a daily basis, has done since this tragedy struck. It was noted that he began by referring to the effort going on at the Twin Towers site as a recovery effort. Previously, it had been referred to as a search and rescue effort. He later went on to explain that that is just a change in terminology, not a change in mission, that they are looking to find those who are victims and also hoping to find any survivors if they still exist. But he also said the chances of that are very slim. He went a long way trying to urge New Yorkers here to stress and get back to their lives as normal as possible. He said that is something that the victims would want. He said, if you want to do something here, stop being afraid. Get back to your normal way of life. They don't need any more volunteers. They need people to get back to trying to live the way they did before. In a lighter note, he pointed out that he knew that things were not normal last night when he went to Shea Stadium for the Mets-Braves game, and he said that the crowd actually cheered him when he went out on the field. Of course, the mayor here is known to be a diehard Yankees fan. He did know that when the Braves did come up to the bat that there was a booing that went around, and he said it did indicate that things were starting to go back to normal somewhat. He was joined by former President Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton complimented the mayor for the service that he has done, and the president said that he was most deeply touched by the victims' families, especially those that hold those flyers that we have all seen, and said he was also very deeply touched by the heroism and the ongoing work at the site. CNN's coverage of America's new war begins right now.
Away from the White House and in the company of top advisors, President Bush prepares for the coming storm. A war of weapons and a war of wills. Afghanistan's Taliban assert their will, refusing to deliver Osama bin Laden, and now claiming to have shot down an unmanned spy plane. Their actions answered by growing isolation. Our coverage of America's new war continues. I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington, joined by my colleagues Martin Savage in New York and Darren Kagan at the CNN Center in Atlanta. Darren?
Well, if we're going to start with the latest developments, and the latest development is what you just saw live here on CNN, Mayor Rudy Giuliani's daily media briefing, joined today by former President Bill Clinton. The mayor giving latest numbers, the number of missing still at 6,333. But both the mayor and the former president encouraging people the best thing they could do on an individual basis, get back to life as normally as they know it. More on that just ahead. Other developments of the day we want to tell you about. A source telling CNN that President Bush this weekend could sign an executive order that would name specific terrorist targets, both places and people around the world. Mr. Bush has placed a multi-million-dollar bounty on Osama bin Laden and other suspected terrorists connected to the September 11th attacks. Also today, the United Arab Emirates cut diplomatic ties with the Taliban in Afghanistan. The UAE was one of only 3 countries to recognize the hardline Afghan rulers. Diplomatic sources say the Bush administration could lift sanctions against Pakistan as soon as Monday. That would be in exchange for Pakistan's help. The Pakistani president's decision to cooperate with the U.S. has met with demonstrations that did continue into today. And back in the U.S., the Federal Aviation Administration has eased some restrictions on the use of private aircraft today. That would allow air tours and flight schools to resume for the first time in 11 days. But aircraft flying under visual flight rules are still banned from airspace within 25 nautical miles of New York and Washington. And Wolf, that would include aircraft like news helicopters and blimps. Back up to you.
Thank you very much, Darren. President Bush is not in Washington this weekend. He's huddling with his national security advisors at the presidential retreat at Camp David, Maryland. On the president's table, an executive order targeting terrorists. And on his phone, the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. Joining us now from nearby Hagerstown, Maryland, CNN White House correspondent Kelly Wallace. Tell us how this day went for the president, Kelly.
Well, Wolf, starting early, the president meeting with his national security team, as you noted, actually doing that via video conference. The president joined by his CIA director, his national security advisor, and his chief of staff. The rest of his aides, though, elsewhere in Washington. Also, though, an executive order that the president is expected to sign as early as this weekend. Now, this is an example of how this administration is saying this is not going to be just a military campaign, that it's also going to be a diplomatic and financial battle. And so this order would name specific terrorists and specific terrorist organizations and would freeze their assets in the United States. Now, we're not exactly certain who would be on this list, but we do believe that Osama bin Laden, the man the administration calls the prime suspect for the deadly terrorist attacks, that he will be named along with other organizations linked to that Al-Qaeda group, which is the network that he heads up. This, again, an example, a way to choke off money flowing from the United States to bin Laden and his network. And Wolf, also, as you noted, the president working the phones, a lengthy phone conversation, about 45 minutes to an hour with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Very interesting. It is the third telephone conversation between the two leaders since September 11th, and a sign of how the United States is really working with Russia, trying to cooperate in this fight against terrorism, trying to get any intelligence Russia might have about bin Laden. Wolf?
Thank you very much, Kelly Wallace, near Camp David, Maryland. And this programming note, the National Security Advisor to the President, Condoleezza Rice, will join me tomorrow for a special 2.5-hour version of Late Edition. We'll also speak with the New York Mayor, Rudy Giuliani, on the latest in the rescue and recovery effort, and Senator John McCain of Arizona, prisoner of war during the Vietnam conflict, will share his special insights. That's a special CNN Late Edition beginning at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific tomorrow morning. And as the United States and its allies step up their preparations for possible military action against targets in Afghanistan, the country's Taliban rulers remain defiant. And along the Afghan-Pakistani border, tensions remain high. CNN's Nick Robertson is in Quetta, Pakistan, just across the border from Afghanistan.
fewer people turning out at the demonstrations today in Pakistan, hundreds rather than thousands. On Friday, tens of thousands had turned out in Karachi, Lahore and Peshawar, also a few thousand in Quetta. There are more demonstrations called in the coming days. The Islamic clerics here who are opposed to General Pervez Musharraf's backing of the United States and his offer to help support them in combating terrorism, calling out people not only to demonstrate but also strikes to close stores. In neighboring Afghanistan as well, on the national radio broadcast this evening, more details about the drone the Taliban say they shot down. They say it was flying at about a height of 4 kilometers and it was also white in color. They say it contained computerized equipment and that it was unmanned. The Taliban also saying that they're not too disturbed and not too surprised by the move by the United Arab Emirates to break ties with them. Pakistani diplomats also now have left their embassy in Kabul and their offices in the Taliban spiritual capital, Kandahar. However, the Pakistan Foreign Ministry today saying that the Taliban ambassador in Islamabad was still a window of opportunity for the Taliban to hear what the world was saying and, if necessary, for the world to communicate with them. However, Taliban officials today telling CNN that there is no diplomacy going on at this time. Nick Robertson, CNN, Quetta, Pakistan.
And for a look at life inside Taliban-ruled Afghanistan, watch Beneath the Veil, Undercover in Afghanistan. It offers an exclusive look at the lives and deaths of women under the Taliban rulers. It's coming up tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern, and again tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. And a word of caution, viewer discretion is strongly advised. In Washington, the Pentagon is refusing to comment on a claim by Taliban officials that they've shot down an unmanned spy plane over Afghanistan. It's not clear whether the plane was U.S. or Russian. Officials with the Taliban say the aircraft contained computerized equipment and the wreckage was being taken to Kandahar, where the Taliban is based. Checking now with CNN's military affairs correspondent Jamie McIntyre at the Pentagon. Jamie, what are they saying at the Pentagon about this spy plane?
Well, they're saying nothing, Wolf, officially, but U.S. officials are telling CNN, or indicating to CNN, that this UAV that was shot down may in fact have been operated by the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, not a U.S. military drone, but perhaps a CIA drone. Again, the CIA, just like the Pentagon, absolutely refusing to comment on those indications, saying that they will not respond to any of the Taliban claims. But there is some indication, according to sources that I've talked to, that this may have been operated by the CIA. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has called up another 5,000 reservists, bringing to more than 10,000 the number that have been activated since the President's authorization of activation of the reserves. And Defense Secretary Rumsfeld, again on the phone with President Bush today, talking about military options. He is about to leave the Pentagon for his workday. They say he still has not signed a second deployment order, and they still haven't picked a name for the operation. Wolf?
Jamie McIntyre at the Pentagon, thank you very much. And with the Taliban refusing to turn over Osama bin Laden, what's ahead for the United States and its allies? Joining us now with his thoughts on some of the options standing before the president is Jim Steinberg. He's with the Brookings Institute. He's a former Deputy National Security Advisor to former President Bill Clinton. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Steinberg. The whole nature of getting the attention of the Taliban leadership, has President Bush, succeeded